one of the most interesting stories of the week happens to be this, because it is a very real problem. A lot of people are going to straight up deny it, but given what happened just a few years ago, there's a real good shot that the National Football League will have another, and this time probably even longer, lockout. And apparently that's what Ramon Foster believes. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers player representative. He's also the offensive lineman. He used the news of Le'Veon Bell's 3-game suspension over missed drug test as a chance to foreshadow the player's bigger fight with the NFL roughly 4 years from now. Quote, "There are bigger issues than pot," end quote. I agree. But also, you shouldn't use it as a player. We'll get into that. In fact, Foster is urging players to save money now in preparation for a lockout with the NFL over a collective bargaining agreement that will expire after the 2020 season. So after 2020, going into that 2021 season, there's a really good chance that the NFL will suffer another lockout. And this time might be even longer. Quote, "Hit them in the pocket. That way money always talks. For us to do that, we have to save on our end. We can't just be blowing money and not realizing what's coming, especially with the guys that are coming into the league now," end quote. He said he is disenchanted by several issues with the drug policy, including the image hits that the NFL players suffer rather than other sports leagues like the Major League Baseball, especially with the NBA. He says, wait a minute, why are we everywhere when someone fails a drug test, but when in the NBA, kind of, unless it's a major thing, you really don't hear about it. And which it brought something to me because I never truly thought about it that way. I'm so focused on football, on college football, on the NFL, and I talked about a little bit about the NBA, but I never really thought about the difference about how many times you hear in NFL when someone fails a drug test compared to the NBA. When you think about it, NFL outweighs it. He's also he doesn't like the appeal process that is often handled by a sole arbitrator, resulting in varied rulings. One player is suspended for this amount of games and fined this amount of money, and then you look at another player who might have a very similar smoking weed or whatever, caught with weed or some type of drug testing failure, and then they're suspended for X amount of games and fined less amount of money. Which also, you got to also look at it that they also take a percentage out of what you make depending on your contract. So that changes the money too. And then also Bell's appeal reduced his suspension from 4 to 3 games last week. He wanted it to 2 games, thinking that would have been fair. Who cares? In 2011, the Steelers were the only team, this is very important, they were the only team to vote against the proposed CBA that eventually passed before the season. So during the lockout, when they were coming up with all these things and negotiating, the Steelers said no to it. And they were the only team. Foster said the players around the league must be more prepared after many faced too much financial debt to potentially missing games nearly 6 years ago. Quote, "It's coming. They've hired certain people on their legal team, the NFL has, and we have to be the type of players and a union that's not borrowing money from banks and stuff like that to survive a lockout, a strike. That can't happen this time around. We have to be smarter this time around because there are a lot of things we're going to be fighting for and a lot of things they're going to want and we're going to want too," end quote. Smart. Drug testing has affected the Steelers, and this is the weird thing. I don't think he should have used Le'Veon Bell's example just because of the fact after multiple years. Now, the Steelers organization, the Rooney family, is probably the best in the NFL. But they need to be a little bit more strict on their players because the Steelers in recent years have been, I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I know they're one of the teams that are getting hit with a lot of suspensions because of drug testing. Yeah, just this year, Martavis Bryant suspended the entire season because of multiple failed or missed tests. We don't know exactly, but could have been both. That's a problem. That's an issue on management to say, okay, you failed 1, and then nothing really happens after you just fail 1. You have to fail 3, and then you get suspended. Or you fail or miss 3 tests, and then you get suspended. So you got to look at it and say, as a coach, as a manager, general manager, as an organization say, oh, he's already missed 2. Well, what's going on? We need to talk to him. We need to figure out what's the issue. Why are you doing this? Because you can not only are you going to hurt yourself by being suspended and losing money by being fined, you're making the organization look bad. And for the only team to vote against the CBA, there's a problem here. And in Bell, same thing for him. He gets suspended. And this isn't his first time. This isn't Martavis Bryant's first time missing games, being suspended. So you look at it, if they have to miss 3 tests to earn a 3-game ban, or 4-game, depending on appeal, if this is their, and that's just to get suspended, that means they've missed or failed at least each 6 or more tests, because they've been suspended last season and they're suspended this season. That's an issue on management and on them as well, having responsibility to say, look, you continue to fail and miss tests. Why can't you stop? They say marijuana isn't addicting. They say there's nothing wrong with marijuana. Someone's obviously addicted. Someone's obviously hooked on it where they can't stop, and then they complain about being suspended. They complain about being fined. I get it. You want it legalized. You want it, the NFL not to ban you. Okay, fight on that issue. Don't fight it by continuing to do it and then getting suspended and complaining about being suspended and then getting fined for it, when that's not fighting. That's not pushing for, hey, we need to have marijuana legalized, or we want it not being punished by the NFL. Because you continue to do it, the NFL is just going to continue making money. And why would they want to just say, why do we want to stop suspending these guys and stop fining these guys? People are still going to watch the games. People, yeah, we might get hate for the first week or whatever, but we're going to be fine. That's what I want to know. That's why this marijuana thing is so stupid on the players' side of it, for continuing to do it and then complaining about it. That's my issue. Now, Foster continued to say, quote, every situation has been different. Not one person has had the same penalty. It's always how the person is feeling, who's handing down the execution. It needs to be refined. It can't just go through one person, end quote. That's his argument. I think there is an argument. I believe there is a debate about how this should be handled, and maybe there should be changes on the NFL side, but at the same time, players, you got to just go with it. You got to go with what the rule is, and continue to fight it. Just like if there's another situation, you continue to fight it, but not by doing it and being suspended. That's not making a stand. That's not fighting back against the NFL, because in the end, they're just taking your money and keeping it. I don't know. To me, that's losing a battle, not winning or making a point. Let me know in the comment section down below. Follow me on Twitter at